Well, hello there, terrible warriors. Welcome back. We are starting a new year and a new game, and you have joined us once again as we embark on a new story. I am not your game master, Justin Ecock. I will be but a humble player this time around. And this is our episode 0. Just like we did with Symbaroum, this is going to be an opportunity for us to tell you about the game we are going to play, introduce you to the cast who is going to join us. There are familiar voices and unfamiliar voices this time around. And introduce you to briefly who our characters are going to be. But as you might recall from Symbaroum, what we have happen in this episode doesn't necessarily be what comes to play when we actually play the game. We are about to start on another month-long project where every weekend for this month, we will be recording as many hours as we can of this game. And I really like this model because it allows us to do these big stories that we were never able to do in the past in a compressed time. So anyway, that's just my side of podcast editing and production. But we have decided this time around to return to a genre of games that I have always had an uncomfortable relationship with, or at least a struggle as a game master running through it. This game, Kult Divinity Lost, is a horror game. And we have many horror fans who have been on the show. And if you recall the times that I have run horror games in the past, or even if you were lucky enough to be a part of the Patreon game where I ran Kult, you'll know how I just find that this is like a second language to me. It's not something that I speak natively the way I would when I run a science fiction or a fantasy genre game. So I'm very excited this time around to be a player at the table, because I think I've even said it on record. Like, I wouldn't want to play this game again unless I was a player, because I want to be able to experience that side of the table and also to witness a GM who does speak this as their first language, who does know the words of horror, who can help translate this world into a tabletop experience. And I am very excited that he's creeped us out enough as Verd in Symbaroum, and this time around he is taking the center seat at the table to be our storyteller, to help weave that world and lead us through on the leashes of horror, as it were. Mitch Wallace, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your brief reprieve post Symbaroum, but we're back into the fray now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm just happy to be back in a seat that I'm super comfortable in.
Yeah, because you being a player on Symbaroum was an oddity, because like me, you're usually tasked with being the one who runs the game.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're back into it. And around our table, of course, I'm not playing this alone. I have been given my emotional support players in the form of returning to Terrible Warriors from our Symbaroum game, Aislie Moores. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
And when I told you about this idea for our next game, and I told you about the setting for it, and I showed you some of the artwork from it, your reaction was a little lukewarm, little. I'm not sure. How did you react when I told you about Kult?
Honestly, I'd never considered horror before, or something that was like as seriously horror as Kult is. Like, sometimes it creeps into creepier settings if you're playing D&D or other tabletop games. But I was like, wow, this is like a horror game. Like, am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah, this is the kind of horror game where it's not just about like the rating on the movie, but also you need to check the content warnings underneath that rating.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know what this involves, and I know Mitch is like super into horror. He's mentioned that before, and I was like, Mitch is running this. Like, am I going to be
being
too
very
scared?
cagey? He's holding a lot of cards close to his chest here. I have a concern,
but I was like, you know what? It's fun because I obviously worked with Mitch and Justin on Symbaroum. So I was like, you guys are great people. Kimberly, I'm super excited to be working with. Oh, spoiler. And so I'm excited.
The thing with Symbaroum, I recall your experience with tabletop was very much a Dungeons and Dragons experience before Simbroom, and here I am using Simbroom as the gateway drug, and now I'm taking you away from like that fantasy comfort zone into like this is also as a system, it's a powered by apocalypse system, which is different from the even Simbroom, as different as the system it felt okay. There's charisma, there's strength, there's like there's some like it feels familiar if you've only played Dungeons and Dragons. This likely does not feel very familiar at all. It is a very shift in differences, and I'm really excited to maybe partway through this game take another intermission and just ask you too of like, what is this like in a very different intention of rules, because Powered by Apocalypse games are very story center, whereas even in Simbroom it was very mechanic centered with the numbers and the way the rules are. So yeah, yes,
it'll be very interesting. I'm excited to see.
I'll be keeping watch over here because I may be a player, but I'm still inquisitive. I'm still watching and planning and plotting. And not new to Terrible Warriors, because you heard her already join us in an episode of Behind the Screens, where not by coincidence, we were talking about a horror setting there as well. We are very excited to have Kimberly join us in this, our game of Kult. Welcome to the Terrible Warriors.
Thanks, Justin. So stoked to be back. So stoked to be playing a horror game.
When I told you after our Behind the Screens about Kult and about this setting, you're just like, I don't care what the lineup is. I don't care what the queue is. I don't care what the order of priority, or if there's people who have like a first of right of refusal. I need to be on this game. You need to eliminate my competition and put them out of the way so that I can be at this table. If there was someone else who's going to be in front of me, I need to get their cement boots ready and throw them into Lake Ontario because I need to be in this game. That was. I know I'm paraphrasing here, but that was kind of the gist of it.
I was like, if there's something in my schedule on our recording days, like I'm that cat on the table that just shoves everything off the table. Like, get out. I'm here. I'm ready.
Why are you so excited about playing a game like this? Because both Aislie and I are coming at it from like curiosity killed the cat kind of a feeling here, where we're like, what have we signed up for? And you're just like, yes.
I am really fascinated, first of all, like, you know, from our Behind the Screens episode, that how to make tabletop horror work is really fascinating to me. And I love horror games. I love getting spooked a lot. I like to challenge myself, and I think horror can be very challenging. Yeah, so when I heard about Kult and how it's like this game that is specifically designed to be terrifying, horrific even, and that we had Mitch as our DM, who has experience like DMing terrible, awful, horrific settings, I was like, I gotta be there. I want to be spooked. I want to challenge myself. I want to make a terrible character. Disclaimer, I'm actually very bad at playing bad people in games, so I think this will be challenging for me too.
But I'm a GM usually, so I'm used to playing absolute bastards all the time because the NPCs need to be antagonistic. But yeah, it's you're a very wholesome player when you play your games.
I'm looking forward to the excuse to be terrible.
Well, welcome. This is a Terrible Warrior show, so that works, doesn't it? And I'm gonna bring Mitch back in now, but was he sending you all like very inquisitive, uncomfortable, probing questions about your characters' backstories, where I would give a little bit more answer and be like, "Oh, really? What does he regret?" Or and how has he hurt them? And what was their name? I was like, "Oh no, I'm giving him the rope to hang myself on here." I wasn't. Was he just doing that to me, or was he torturing all of you this week as well?
When I was asked for names of characters I was attached to, I started sweating a little bit. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, here's the name of my dearly beloved grandmother. Let's have fun. Let's roll that dice."
I'm so excited. Yeah, no. I got the questions. My characters, I'm excited. It's fun playing a broken. I can't say much. I won't say much.
Oh, well, we'll get into our characters in just a moment, because I do want to introduce the cast, introduce the setting, and then introduce our characters, and then we'll roll into our first episode. So, Mitch, give me, if you don't mind, I'd love to know, I first found Kult in 2019 on the floor of Gen Con just from the cover art alone. The artwork drew me in. I flipped through the pages. I was way past my budget for the weekend already, and I just pulled out my lunch money and went, here, take it all. I'm buying this book on the spot. I need this in my bookshelf. I need this in my collection. Even if I never play it, the artwork alone and then the writing inside of it was just like, the presentation in the book literally blew me away. And I was off balance, and I found, as a Canadian, when you're down in the States, it's really, you have a lot of change in your pocket all the time. You got so much money and coins and $1 bills, and it feels like you have more money than you have at all times. And you look at it like, oh, I actually only have the $40 I need for this book, and now I'm completely broke. But your history with Kult goes further than that. So please tell me a bit about your history with Kult, what Kult is as a game, and how, like, bring us up to the present day.
Yeah. So Kult was created in the early 90s by Gunilla Johnson and Michael Peterson. And it's been through a couple of iterations. Of course, now we're at the fourth edition, created by Robin Hilgenberg and Petra Nalo, done by Helmgast. And they've completely kind of updated everything, went with the Powered by the Apocalypse route, new art, layout, and rule set. It won a lot of cool awards back in 2019. And I think has brought the horror genre in TTRPG to a place where I, as a horror enthusiast, salivate. Kult, for me, has scratched every itch in terms of horror. Reading through the book is horrific in of itself. The pictures and art engaging, erotic, sensual, as well as grotesque, which is something I've always been interested in. Some of my favorite movies have been like Black Void and I Saw the Devil, which is a Korean film, Atorados, and a few others. And Kult just kind of, it speaks to a lot of horror fans, very narrative focused. And the setting is also amazing, kind of almost Hellraiser-esque, this Gnostic look at reality, where the whole world is put together by an illusion that the demiurge has concocted along with the archons and the death angels, which keep humanity prisoners.
Which kind of feels a little Matrix-y as well. Of there's the humans that are in this prison don't know it, and once you become aware of it, you're more or less now, like it or not, in this resistance against it. It's definitely been sold to me as like Hellraiser meets the Matrix in some circles, but there's so many angles to horror in this book. There's so many roads you can take to it. And just off of your point, the book, the design of it reminds me of, like, more recently as well, of games like Morkborg and Bluebeard's Bride. Of these books are not just rule books anymore. And, in the 90s, if you'd bought a horror tabletop game, maybe it's something like even something World of Darkness, right? It would have it was laid out like an encyclopedia, like a set of rules, very analytical. Maybe there's some pictures aside to it, but it's a picture that's illustrating an example that's already in the book, and it's drawing something out, very much like Dungeons and Dragons is today. And now with games like Kult, you read through this book and just the language it's using in the rules, the way it is saying, the way it's phrasing, even just dedicating an entire page to just say book 1 in big gold filigree and these big heavy fonts. Yeah, it conditions you into an emotional state while you're flipping through the pages. It's wonderful.
Peter Pernusha of Imagining Games always said that TTRPGs have a difficult route because they are one part I guess
they're an instruction
educational-
manual.
Yeah, instruction manual. It's an art book as well as a creative license.
Yeah, it needs to both be a textbook and a blueprint and an instruction manual, while also being a storyteller in its own right.
Yeah, and when you can do all parts of that, then you've made a really good TTRPG, which I think Kult has definitely. And kind of going back on the Matrix comparison, I think my favorite part about Kult is that the further you get to the truth, the further away you get from yourself. And so freedom is not an escape from your chains into something more glorious and beautiful, but it's something more terrifying, horrific, which we just accept. I mean, that's the end goal. There is no light. There is no benevolence. The world is a dark and horrific place, and we, in this chained world, are probably our best versions of ourselves in terms of morality. The further we go and escape from the lies and go to the truth, the more we understand that our power and our freedom is freedom from morality, which is horrific and grotesque.
So if this was being done like the first Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings, with the opening with Galadriel giving the overview for the audience of the things we need to know before we descend onto the Shire, what is that opening narrative like for the Kult movie, Mitch? Like how does that opening come up to catch the audience up on the things that our listeners need to know? Because certainly, I imagine when we begin our game in only a few minutes, and I am stalling because I am terrified, when we begin that game, our characters are not going to know what we, the players, know, and certainly what the listeners know. So what should the listener know about Kult Divinity Lost before this episode begins? So that because this is also a bit of, inside baseball, as you know, Mitch, while I was running Simbroom. Most of the people that are listening to Terrible Warriors, if they click the link in the show notes and they buy Kult, they are going to have to run this game. So I also want you to feel free to equip that person, knowing that the person listening in is a potential GM candidate for this world. So let them know how the sausage gets made, right? Bring them into your room space as much as you want to. And certainly right now, what should the listener, know before we embark on this exploration?
I think I'm going to rip from the Kult core rulebook, the first chapter, which is spoken of in the trailer of Kult Divinity Lost for the Kickstarter. We live in a world where the sun has set. Fallen angels, twisted demons, and lost gods walk in our midst. So too do our eternal jailers, pitiless beings beyond time itself, striving to keep us imprisoned. Their corrupting influence seeps into every aspect of our existence. They wield almost total control over our top politicians, religious leaders, law enforcement officials, internet celebrities, and media industries. Their only goal is to keep us distracted, passive, and quiet, so we never awaken from our trance and see the world as it truly is.
Ooh. Shall we introduce our cast?
Yeah, I think if we're ready to hop in, I'm ready to hop in.
So, Aislie. Oh, actually, now that I think about, maybe Aislie we should introduce just at the third out of us, because you're a special case. Kimberly, who are you bringing to this Kult table?
So I am bringing Autumn Oculus. And Autumn Oculus is an occultist, which is one of the archetypes in Kult, which help you build your character. Autumn is part of a cult and also a student, so a multitasker, as a lot of students are. And Autumn is really scared of the truth, but she also has to know. And she wants to fight it. because her fight or flight instinct says fight, fight, fight.
And as an occultist character, do we want to? I guess a lot of it is just going to be show, not tell. We're going to get to meet them. Your character is very much connected to mine. I'm not playing an occultist, though. I'm playing a scientist, specifically a theoretical engineer currently on leave because of something that you did, Autumn. He's absolutely blaming you, even though it was almost certainly his fault. He is working out of, I just told Mitch, a local educational institution. So, like, if it's a college or a university or a fucking high school, like, it is Mitch's world, and I wanted to just leave enough vagaries so that we can fit there. But let's be honest, I'm playing Walter Bishop from Fridge is very much if I was playing a character that was going to look like mine, but much less forgiving or forgivable to me as a player. He's not as nice. Aiden is been stealing ideas from people through his entire career. The theories he has won awards for, the inventions he has patented, the projects that he's been involved in, all the stuff that is on his wall in his office that has made him this respected scientist in the international community is all based off of inventions and ideas created by his students that he has been taking from up-and-coming students that have a bright future. He takes those ideas, ruins their reputation. There's no bodies to bury. He just makes it so that they're just no longer welcome in academia anymore because of claims of plagiarism and all this. He knows how the game is played, and he's been playing it against them for years and making a huge reputation for himself. And that all goes back to there's an origin story to that as well that Mitch and I have been unfolding. But more recently, his latest victim was going to be Autumn Oculus, our occultist, this very bright, energetic student with really interesting ideas and a knowledge of the way things work that was very not scientific, but seemed to have some empirical, like there was truth to this.
Yes, so I was going to say Autumn's cult has some knowledge into how the world works and how to break through that illusion that Cult is built on. Yeah. And she brings this.
From my understanding with Cult, is this illusion that Mitch was talking about, this prison that the humans are in, which is our reality, our real world, is failing. It's crumbling. It's falling apart. And perhaps, and this is just me speculating because I'm not the GM, so I don't fucking know, the cult that our occultist is a part of is exploiting one of these cracks in this illusion. They have a thing that they do, a ritual that they do, that is allowing them to basically look through the keyhole and see outside the prison, see outside the illusion. And that's incredibly dangerous and is likely sending most of them mad and is it's not a safe thing to do. But there's lots more of these cults popping up all around the world as the illusion continues to crumble. And so so you come to me with this truth, this knowledge, and it fucking works. And we begin building this thing that is going to change the world, a window to other realities, a doorway that will allow us to see, to like, maybe it's a string theory, parallel Earth, something, I don't know, it's going to work. It's going to make me famous. And we turn it on and all hell breaks loose. And for a very brief moment, not enough that will like mechanically change who our character stats are, we step through into we step outside the illusion. We step outside of this prison. We step into another realm of an Archon or a Death Angel or somewhere. I don't know as a player where we went. Aiden certainly doesn't know, but we stepped through to that. And while we were there, for just that briefest of moment before we peed ourselves and ran away, we found someone there lying on the ground. They were alive, but they were not conscious. And we grabbed them, we pulled them out. But the door we went through was not the door we exited from. And we ended up some distance away from the lab. A park nearby is what I had suggested. Only to hear on the news the lab burnt to the ground. there was an explosion. They think it was a gas leak or some unsafe practices. And after a thorough investigation by the fire department and all this stuff, they blamed Aiden. They've blamed me. I have been put on leave. There's an investigation. There are students that were harmed, students that are missing. We don't know what came through that door. We left it open and it collapsed on itself. And we've also got this person we've brought back. And that's who Aislie Moore is playing. And Aislie is playing the Broken character. We have an occultist, we have a scientist, and then we have this character, the Broken.
Yes, I'm very excited. Blue has been... Do we have a timeline for how long since this accident?
Mitch, how long has it been since I burnt down the school?
1 year.
Oh, God,
Okay.
I've been broke for what year? I'm at my wit's end. This is worse than a pandemic. I'd rather be in lockdown. I can't stand this instant ramen anymore. I used to have my meals prepared by my TA.
Listen, Professor, you'll get used to it. You got to add the extra powders and stuff.
Promise me this, Autumn. If I ever get used to instant ramen, you will smother me in my sleep and you will not stop until I am dead.
Have you tried adding green onion?
Ooh, that sounds good.
Wow. So that means that Blue has had an entire year to learn how to be a person again, with no knowledge of who or what she was before this year. She's not looking good. She's underweight. She's trying to figure out how everything tastes again. She has no memories, but sort of images that come through her head. She has a lot of headaches, but is genuinely very curious about the things around her and seems to be lacking any sort of self-preservation, like danger sort of sense. She registers pain, but she's not concerned by it as much as she probably should be. And she's been learning from Aiden and Autumn as much as she can what it means to exist in this place, and trying desperately to remember if she's a young woman looking like in her early 20s. She's trying to figure out what happened, because there obviously were years before this that she cannot account for. She was able to pick up things like speech, which means she probably had them beforehand. She probably has a lot of things, and it's just a memory of what her life is or was. She's very obsessed.
And with nothing else to do, Aiden is researching you. We have relationship questions that we're supposed to choose as players. The occultist is my assistant, and the Broken is my research subject. So, we don't even know if where we went, time relatively moves the same way as it does here. Just because we have a relative idea of your age does not mean if you started here on Earth that you were actually here in the last 20 years. You could be from hundreds of years ago. We just don't have anything. So I've been, without anything else to do, I've just been studying you, because whatever Autumn brought into my lab and caused all of this, and whatever you are, Blue, leads to a truth that I have, through sunk cost fallacy, completely convinced myself will restore the life I had before the two of you came and wrecked it.
Nobel Prize ticket. That's me.
You asked for this. Let me remind you. Meanwhile,
I'm the victim here.
Been trying to get back in the good graces with my cult, who have put me on probation for an incident that may or may not come up as we play. That is separate from this. This is my backstory.
No.
We need to quickly come up. I just realized Autumn and Blue's relationship. I was imagining it's sort of like a mentorship thing of like, oh, Autumn's here again. Autumn, what have you brought in from the outside? This is so interesting. Wow.
Stop contaminating my research.
I've brought you instant noodles.
Excellent. I love it. They're so dry.
Yeah, so your relationships, one of the characters trying to get you back on your feet.
Yes.
One of the characters was taken when you were broken. One of the characters is your closest friend. One of the characters is the reason you were broken, or you are angry with one of the characters. You also can choose relationships from other archetypes as well, pending Mitch's approval.
Aiden, I assume you're just kind of weirdly my caretaker. slash I'm your research subject. That's our relationship. And
Yeah,
Autumn,
it's taking
there's also
on
option you
maybe
can
a
meet my best
bit of a
friend.
familial role after so much time. I have to be like,
Yeah.
no, let me teach you about economics, Blue.
What's a bank?
What I'm saying is you need to bring in some of the rent.
What is
Pull
how
yourself
do
up
I-
by the bootstraps and get
what do you-
yourself a part-time job. Stop being a burden on society.
Do I have to leave the house? This is overwhelming.
You just end up working in the
No.
bodega directly underneath the
Yeah.
apartment, so you don't even have to leave the building. You just
Or
work.
fill out like those online surveys all day.
You're just working at the convenience store, just underneath the apartment that we're squatting in.
No, I like this idea of a survey monkey. I'm just
And
sitting
that way
there.
you get all the instant ramen you could ever need.
Oh, I do love instant ramen.
I end up working at the
That's
convenience
excellent.
store, don't I? Fuck. It's the only thing I'm good for. I have no marketable skills.
Wait,
anywhere
are we
else.
running a convenience store together? This is a sitcom. All the
Sorry,
instant
Mitch.
noodles you could want.
If we're squatting
Sorry.
above an apartment above a bodega, we might have been able to convince him to like levy the rent in lieu of us working at this convenience store during all the bad hours of the day.
Sorry, we just-
That's good because Blue doesn't like the daytime. She finds it makes her headaches worse, so she's happy to work all night long.
Yeah, we need to come up with this like Kim's Convenience store name now.
Subplot: the cult convenience alliteration.
What's should go to Twitter and just ask because it's not gonna we're not gonna be there when we start the game, so we can find out what the name of this convenience store is. We can maybe name it after someone from our Patreon page.
I love that.
Oh my god, I love it. Do it.
We'll roll. Oh, you know what? I've got the Patreon backer sheet open right now. We used to do this back in the day. We can bring back the old tradition, and I'll roll like a D20 and find a. Here's the relationship manager. Okay, so Mitch, do you have a hasty market in the U.S. or is that a Canadian thing?
I have never heard of that.
So Hasty Market is like a franchise of convenience stores. Anyway, I just rolled up Joshua Hastings. So it's not Hasty Market, it's Hastings Market. So yeah, Hastings Market. And yeah, it's there's the Hastings run this.
Do we make haste?
So it's I don't want to call it Hasty because that would be a trademark infringement, but Hastings Market. Other than that, it looks exactly the same. It's very much like Mitch, if you're ever in Ontario and you go up to Sudbury, you'll drive past a McDonald's on the right side of the road, and then a place called like Big Burger on the left side of the road that has a single golden arch as their logo, to the point where they even have a t-shirt going like, "Why have two arches when one arch is good enough? Like one arch is better than two," or something like that. And there's a burger dive right across the street from McDonald's whose logo is just one golden arch with their names through it.
But also,
it's very brazen.
Why would you go to Sudbury for any reason?
On your way north, as you're
I
taking the
see.
highway to a really nice camping site.
To Yellowknife.
Yeah, on my way to Lake Superior, which has some really good camping grounds. Okay, sorry, that was a bit of a detour, but how's that? Hastings Market.
Yeah.
We're living above,
That's so funny.
and we're all sharing this one like tiny apartment. It's like something out of a Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2 rental situation.
Blue's been sleeping in the tub since she was found.
Porcelain is the
great.
only thing that feels comfortable to your skin.
Yeah. Beauty.
It's weird.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so there's Autumn, Aiden, and Blue. And
Are we on a first name basis? Do I still call you
it's been
Professor?
a year. I think I just still refer to you all in expletives. But no, yeah, I'll be it's Autumn and Blue, but I'm only just barking things at you still.
Mister.
Yes, you can call me Sir. You can call me Dr. Callus, Professor. Yeah. Even I don't even know if he has a doctorate. If he does, it's stolen. Mitch, final thoughts before we roll into our first episode? What's the takeaway here as you're hearing us just goofing around going like, oh, you poor summer children.
It's fine. Everything's going to be fine.
It's very soothing. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week with our first story episode in our new campaign series playing Kult Divinity Lost. What is going to happen in our first episode, Mitch? What is on the next episode of Terrible Warriors? What is the tease?
Next episode, 3 individuals sit in an empty airport. One of them catches the eye of a dead crow outside the window, the pitter-patter of rain hitting against its chest. It seems to be drowning in the rain itself, his mouth stretched open to the dark sky. In this sort of melancholic morning that you're having.
I really like that your teases could be like, those like incomprehensible in the next time on Evangelion, like where it's just like flashes of imagery, but they never sent the translation to the English dubbers, so they just don't know what the hell they're looking at, and they go like, something's gonna happen, pass me the beer. Cool.
Beer.
This is fine. Just one, just split between the 3 of us because we're broke.
Oh, airport food's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Kult Flight 191 will begin its story next week. Stay up to date with what we have planned by following us on Twitter at Dice Warriors. And if you are a Patreon supporter, we'll be aiming to send you each episode of our Kult campaign each Friday before we post them to the rest of the world, so that you may know the dark secrets of the truths of the world before everyone else. Help support this show by donating whatever amount you like at patreon.com/terriblewarriors. This is not a cheap production to make, and we don't take any money from advertisers or sponsors. The Terrible Warriors literally only exist because of you and your direct support. Kult Divinity Lost is published by Helmgast. Our theme music is by Epic Game Music. All other music is licensed through Epidemic Sound. Next week, we take our plane tickets and get ready to board a flight that promises each the answers that we seek. And you will get to meet the scientist, the cultist, and their broken friend on the first episode of Kult Divinity Lost. And until that time, dear listener, stay safe and be good to each other.